Welcome to another card making video, and today I have products from the latest release, the May release by Waffle Flower. I will be focusing on one stencil and I will share 3 different ideas, but I'm going to make sure that I use as many of the products as possible so that you can see them in action and you can choose your favorite. The theme this month is around sewing and quilting, but you do get pets as well, so you will find cat and dog. So I couldn't stay away from the cat products, and I will combine products today to create 3 cards using the same stencil, all cat themed. Now I'm going to combine for the first card 2 different products. This is the tiny square texture die, and it is exactly the same size as a standard card. And this is the stencil set that I'm going to play with for all the 3 cards that I'm sharing today. So it's a set of 4 stencils that give you an adorable background. There are also indentations at the top, so you know exactly what each stencil is going to give you. But I'm going to explain everything as we go along and put together the card. I'm going to do some ink blending, that's why I need my grip mat, and I'm starting with a stencil which I'm placing on top of the panel that I cut out. Now make sure that you align it correctly. It is super easy because it is going to cover exactly the full panel, and there is engraved the rectangle of the panel, so you know exactly how you can place it on top. Then all you have to do is to just have fun with ink blending. Now layer 1 is giving you the heads of the cats, and I went with ginger cats just because that's the kind of a cat that I have in my house. And you can definitely use just only one color. If you want to take it a step further, like I do here, you can add a little bit of another color at the base. So here I started with yellow and I'm blending a little bit of orange at the bottom. Now let's peel off the stencil to see the result. And I'm going to move on to stencil number 2, which is going to give you the faces. For that I went with cream color. I actually want to give the illusion of white cat with ginger details, but since I'm working on a white panel, I just had to use cream for that. As you go stencil after stencil, you will get a patchwork effect, just because we did use that die with the cover die in the beginning. You will end up having all that showing as well on top of it. So you will see how it comes together in a bit. Now I'm using stencil number 3, which is going to give you the eyes as well as the paws. For the eyes I'm just going with black. Make sure that you clean up your stencil before you move on and use the color for your paws. You don't want to contaminate close by areas. And then for the paws I just went with pale pink. And let's peel off that stencil to see the result. Absolutely gorgeous. And now there is 1/4 stencil which is going to give you only the nose. Now for the noses I went with the same pink as I used for the paws. And the background using the Patchwork Cat Stencils is done. You can just stop here, stick it on top of a card base and add sentiment. I think it looks just gorgeous, and think of all the color combinations that you can do super easily just by changing the color of your cat. You can go with grey, with black, with calico, whatever you like. I stamped a sentiment from the Quilted Hug stamp set and I used the matching dies to cut it out. And you can see this is a stunning card already. However, I want to show you in action even more products from this release. So let's take a look at the Notions die. Now, if you love sewing or quilting, this is definitely for you. I absolutely love this one. You will find scissors, threads, needles, all the bits and pieces that you can combine to create something for around that theme. And I'm going to use some of the dies to kind of dress up and create a cluster around my sentiment. So I cut out everything and I'm just putting together the dies. This is the thread roll. For the thread I went with pink and it matches the ink of the paws. Now I used for the roll white, but you will see I'm going to change my mind in a bit. Anyway, I'm putting together now the pink cushion, and you will find that for the pink cushion, when you cut out the top part, there is already indentations little holes where you can put inside. I'm going to show you here. You can put inside all the needles and the pins that you can cut out with the dies. So I used silver cardstock to cut those out, and I have a couple of pins and a needle that I'm going to thread inside. I think this is an adorable element. It is such a lovely product. Now, one thing that I absolutely love about Waffle Flower is that they always give you really unique products. Every month their designs are really unique. So anyway, I'm going to use foam squares at the back and just put everything together. And this is where I decided that the thread roll doesn't contrast against the background so much. That's why I switched things up and I went with black. So here you see I had to put together another thread roll. I'm just going to tuck it behind, and I did cut out the thread. Again, the thread, the black thread that you see there, is cut out using the dies from the kit. I'm just going to stick this panel on top of my card base and my card is done. I absolutely love it. Here are some close-up photos where you can see all that quilting effect that you get. And if you check the products from this release, you will find that there are other stencils that match this beautiful quilting die. So you don't have to go with cuts. There are plenty of other designs like flowers or squares and rectangles and such. Now for card number 2, I'm using only one stencil directly on top of a panel, and I just used some masking tape to make sure that I don't ink up through the eyes. A really simple background, and you can even reposition the stencil and have even more pose. So that's another way to use this stencil set. Now this background is going to work just fine as it is without a texture die behind it, like the tiny square that I used in the previous card. But just to show you another product from this release, I'm just using the cross-hatch texture die so you can see it in action. Now I did promise 3 cut cards, so for this card I'm going with the cut silhouette die set, which is going to be my focal point. It gives you not only the cut silhouette but also a football along with a thread and a tiny toy mouse. Cat and the mouse, I did use grey cardstock and I inked it up a little bit. And now for the metal part of the toy, I just cut out the toy one more time out of silver cardstock. I cut out only the metal part and I'm just going to stick it on top. This is going to add just some extra interest and some shine as well. Now to make it more interesting, and because I love splatters, I'm just going to use the same ink pad and that I used for inking up the cat. I'm just going to add some splatters here and there. Completely optional, you can just completely omit that step and move on into inking up the bowl. For the bowl I went with pink, the same color that I used for the pose, so it matches with the background. And then I'm just going to put together the food on top. I will add a piece of double-sided tape at the back, which is going to leave the sticky part exposed at the front, and then I can just put inside that bone, fish bone. And now let's put the card together. For the background I decided to use this lace die just to give it more interest, and I think it makes it cuter with the lace all around. I'm going to place that on top of my card base, and the panel is at the back is pink, matching the color of the pose. So now it's just time to put everything together. I'm going to place the silhouette of the cat, and I did use foam squares at the back. And I'm using one of the ready-made sentiments, and then I'll just build up all the little cutout pieces that I have around the sentiment to create my little cluster. So I'm just playing around trying to decide where everything is going to look nice and balanced. And I do have foam squares behind all of those elements just because I love dimension. There is also a pet silhouette, so you can recreate the same card but with the pet die if you like. Just check out the release. Now a third way to use this stencil is to create a border. So here I'm going to use 3 different colors for the paws. I'm going to use a turquoise for one paw, yellow for another, and green for the third one. And you can see how I'm going to move the stencil so that I can have 3 paws in a row. You can have as many as you like. For this third card, I'm going to use the Fabric Lover die, which gives you not only the die but also stencils to color it. So I have cut out the cat, and the cat is sleeping on top of 3 pillows or 3 blankets, whatever these are. The first stencil is going to give you 3 different areas, as you can see here, to color your cat, which are going to be super helpful no matter which color you want your cats to end up with. Then there is the second stencil, which is going to give you the blankets, let's call them blankets, and you can use the different areas to color them in. Use light color for this stencil and then use a darker color for the third stencil, which is going to give you the designs on top of your blankets. If you want, you can completely use the same colors that you use underneath. That's what I did. Just go oversaturating it and you end up with a lovely design as well. Now you need to add the nose and the eyes. For that I used again the double-sided tape trick at the back so that I can stick them at the front. And now I'm going to use my paper trimmer to cut out a border using the pose that we did in the beginning. I'm going to ink up a little bit the edges all around. And it's really easy to ink up in between the blankets if you like, just because it does have everything cut out already. You can even make those blankets even more, multiple ones, and have the cat sleeping higher up. If you can cut out even more blankets and just stack them up one on top of the other. Anyway, I'm going to put the card together, the border at the bottom, then at the top of the border I'm going to add a very thin strip of golden cardstock. On my panel I'm going to very lightly ink blend a little bit of that turquoise ink pad, very lightly, as you can see, just enough so that when I stick all the elements on top they are going to pop against the background. And then I'm going to use foam squares at the back and just place everything on top. Now for the sentiment I used one of the circles from the Postage Collage circle sentiments, and I did do some embossing, gold embossing on white cardstock. I'm going to place it there, and now if you want you can embellish it a little bit by using some foliage at the back. Finally, I'm going to stick the panel on top of my card base, and here are some close-up photos on all the cards that I made for today. Links to everything I used are in the description along with a 10% coupon code just for you. I hope that you had fun and that you got inspired, and I'll see you all next time.